Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone. Tonight is your night. Yes, it is a call-in program, so you can join the conversation. And we have the same number we had the last. We're having some technical problems here. Sorry about that, but no big deal. We have it almost under control. You know what Carol Shelby used to say? If you're still in control, you're just not going fast enough. So let me speed up, shall we? Yeah, I'm going to put the number on the screen right here for you right now. You can join in the conversation at 1-647-734-4220. Now that's essentially a Google number, so no charge for that. And when you phone that number, when prompted, just punch in the meeting code. The PIN number is 860-075-764. Tonight, the main subject of conversation: Donald Trump after 3 weeks. So much ground to cover. You get to offer your review. Now, if you don't call in, I'll just sit here and talk and share the top news stories of the day. But if you feel so inclined to weigh in on the conversation tonight, the floor can be yours at 1-647-734-4220. And again, the PIN number 860-075-764. I'll leave that up on the screen for much of the broadcast so that you can see what the number is if you want to call in. And there is a lot of news to cover tonight. The controversy surrounding DOGE, the way that Elon Musk is going about making government smaller. Some people thrilled, other people appalled. And accusations of corruption, both from Elon Musk and directed toward Elon Musk and Donald Trump as a result of Musk's actions. So you can comment on that tonight. Also, Danielle Smith, Premier of Alberta, the Premier who went to Mar-a-Lago to basically, well, I won't say kiss the ring. Yeah, she kissed the ring. She was trying to find a way to avoid crippling tariffs on Canada. Well, she's in some hot water on the home front. We'll tell you about that, and we'll tell you what her response has been to it. What else? Justin Trudeau, in the wake of Trump's tariff threat and all the talk about making Canada the 51st state, hopped on a jet and went on over to Europe to meet with European leaders. He's looking to strengthen ties with Europe because of what Trump has been doing. And, you know, there's just so much other ground to cover with Trump. What he said about Gaza, what the situation is right now with Ukraine. Will he continue to fund the war effort and assist Ukraine? Or will he make a deal? Zelensky seems like he's ready to make a deal, and we have a clip from him. And we have videos to share with you tonight as well from organizations and people who are either really happy with what Trump is doing or people who are triggered and losing their minds because of Trump's unorthodox approaches to many of the issues facing the United States and the president right now. So stay with me. There is a lot of ground to cover, and you get to be part of the program. Yes, that's right. We're going to give you a voice right here on Maverick News. 'News' 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 '
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you. Okay, so this was actually posted yesterday, but it sort of sets the stage for a lot of what we will end up talking about tonight. And this was from Los Angeles, where we had a protest in the street. Not unusual these days. But this was an anti-ICE protest. And many of the protesters were carrying flags actually from other, representing other countries, because, of course, the main issue for them has been and is deportations. But in this case, someone, it appears, was stabbed in a confrontation or an altercation.
What are you guys getting out of this? Hey, no. Hey, come on, stop the fight! Hey, come over here!
And you can see the blood.
Oh, jeez.
And I fear things are going to continue to deteriorate out there because emotions are running high. My advice, stay calm. I would stay away from some of these protests. Just my personal opinion. I mean, I think everybody has a right to protest, but weigh your options very carefully, stay safe, and I would say try to avoid any place that is possibly volatile like that, where you might find yourself in harm's way, I do what you want. That young man paying a price tonight. And it isn't exactly clear at this point what exactly happened. Apparently the assailant was not a protester, so it's not clear to me if what the motivation might actually have been there. The investigation has to run its course so that we find out, what really happened, so we get the real deal on it. Now, yesterday, Justin Trudeau was in Toronto holding an economic summit where he met with business leaders, stakeholders from across the political spectrum, other politicians, trying to, I guess, take his message of his Team Canada message and approach into a larger forum to share with other leaders and people who might be able to contribute to the effort to protect Canada from any aggressive trade tariffs or other actions that might come from the new Trump administration. Now, while he went into a closed door session. Initially, media was allowed in for a photo op to show the crowd and Trudeau speaking during his opening address. But then media was asked to leave. It went in camera, which is to say media was asked to step outside, even though there were a lot of people in the meeting. And the doors were closed, and Trudeau thought that he was speaking. Hang on just a moment. All right. And Trudeau thought that he was speaking with some degree of confidentiality. Not quite so. He was still on a microphone, still on a loudspeaker, and he said that these threats from Donald Trump are actually a real thing. I'll run you the clip. I ran this last night, but again, it sets the stage for the broader conversation tonight. This is what he said. This is a real existential threat to Canada. I added the word existential. He said it's a real thing.
Mr. Trump has it in mind that one of the easiest ways of doing that is absorbing our country. And it is a real thing.
So he says he believes that Donald Trump does actually want to absorb Canada. He says it's a real thing. This is the Prime Minister of Canada saying this, taking Trump's threat very, very seriously. I also take it very seriously. I don't know if it will actually happen, but yeah, I think Trump is quite serious about it. Now, it's still, even now, many people don't take it seriously. I think that Canadians who don't take it seriously are willfully blind, maybe asleep. Americans who are not taking it seriously, I would say, maybe aren't really in tune with what is going on. And I would say the number of people who are dialed into this are, shall I say, few and far between. More people beginning to finally realize that, yeah, it wasn't just a joke. Even though Trump kept saying it over and over again, Canada should just be the 51st state. But even now, Senator Ted Cruz, even in his podcast today, in a state of denial on this, as far as he's concerned, it's just epic Trump trolling where Canada is concerned. But when it comes to Greenland and Panama, it's a bit of a different story. He has a different perspective on that. This is Ted Cruz on his podcast, which he calls Verdict with Ted Cruz. This is what he had to say today. I think it's coming. Here we go.
About moving forward on big issues with Donald Trump. Trump has talked about, hey, Canada, we can lower your taxes. We'll give you safety and protection from Russia. You guys aren't doing that great right now. Maybe you should become part of America. He also has made these conversations about Greenland. Maybe we should, have Greenland come into America, and we could work a deal. And then Donald Trump also called out Panama, as he described it, for selling out to China and then still asking the U.S. for money for repairs. Senator, I love these conversations. I think this is exactly what a president should do. Start grand debates on issues that have been, off. Oh, you can't touch these issues. For years they've been saying that. Like, oh, you can't do that. You can't talk about this. You can't call out other countries for taking advantage of us. And when you find out that Panama's charging more for our boats to come through than other countries, that obviously seems incredibly unfair. I love this.
Well, listen, I agree. I think these are incredibly important topics. And I don't think they're all the same. So in my view, Canada, Panama, and Greenland all exist on a continuum. And I think his comments about the three are very, very different and should be understood differently. Let's start with Canada. Canada, I think he's just trolling Canada. I think, is Canada going to become a state? No, I do not believe that is going to happen. But he said this initially when he was having dinner with Justin Trudeau down at Mar-a-Lago. And he basically he said, you know what, why doesn't Canada become a state? You could become a governor. And I think he was just trolling the guy. I would have paid money to be sitting at that table when Trump said that. The expression on Trudeau's face. I mean, he basically looks at him and goes, why are you even a country? Like why are you possibly here? It reminded me, way back in the 2016 presidential debates where we were all standing on stage and he looks over at Rand Paul and he's like, why the hell are you even on this stage? You don't belong on this stage. And it was, look, it's classic Trump. It was just trolling. And to be clear, this may be the most consequential troll in history. His comment and public ridicule of Trudeau and saying that Canada should become a state, it literally toppled Justin Trudeau. He announced this week he is resigning as prime minister, and it is entirely Trump. Look, he was already in a weak position, and he was already unpopular, but Trump just utterly humiliating him, literally knocked him out of his role as the head of the government of Canada. That is an epic troll.
It also, by the way, inspired, I think, the people in Canada to say, we can do better than this guy. We don't have to be stuck with him, and we can get conservatives back in charge and hold the left accountable for what they did. A lot of this started with the truckers movement, and the overreach there, and then him basically saying, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to come arrest you and invoke emergency powers. That is all coming back to haunt the liberals, not just Trudeau, but the liberals that are in the government.
Well, and listen, Trudeau has been rampantly oppressive. The trucker convoy was an amazing and powerful moment, and Trudeau responded just with brute force. Trudeau has been an absolute totalitarian when it comes to free speech, going after Jordan Peterson and others, being willing to just use government power to silence anyone he disagrees with. And I think this is those chickens coming home to roost. But in terms of the comments, I think the Canada comments are a troll. I think the Greenland comments are something very different. I think the United States acquiring Greenland is a very, very good idea. To be clear, Trump talked about this his first term in office. And at the time, a lot of people, particularly the media, dismissed it. They said, oh, it's Trump talking. It's just some crazy idea. But I'll tell you, acquiring Greenland has enormous advantages to the United States. Number one, Greenland's location on the Arctic is incredibly important from a national security and defense perspective. If you look at the Arctic, if, God forbid, we ever get in a shooting war with Russia or China, ICBMs from Russia or China will come over the Arctic and right over where Greenland is. Greenland is situated in an incredibly important location to defend the United States of America. We also see the Arctic, particularly with some snowmelt. We're seeing possible trade routes that are opening up in the Arctic, and again, Greenland is ideally located for that. In addition, Greenland has very significant reserves of critical minerals that are vitally important for semiconductors, for high tech, for electronics, for defense equipment. And so the United States acquiring Greenland, making Greenland an American territory, would have very important benefits for America from both a national security perspective. Control of the Arctic is going to be incredibly important, and Greenland has a really pivotal location. And I think there is also a real potential that is beneficial to the people of Greenland to be in an American territory. That brings a lot of benefits. They are right now governed by Denmark, and many Greenlanders are not happy with Denmark. And so, it is a significant
You're saying there is a real opportunity for this to actually become a reality.
And by the way, you look at the history of America. You look at the Louisiana Purchase, where America bought almost half the country from France. It was a purchase. You look at Manhattan, where the settlers purchased Manhattan. You look at Alaska. Alaska was we bought Alaska. And it was dismissed at the time as Seward's folly. It proved enormously consequential buying Alaska. So I would put it in that broader history. And I think now will it definitely happen? Of course not. We don't know that. Is Denmark, will there be some resistance there? Absolutely. Will the Greenlanders ultimately want to do this? I don't know.
Is this one of those things that would come down to a vote and they would vote on it? How does this actually work? I mean, is there a purchase price?
You give it to us or we
the
invade.
reality if this moves forward, what it looks like.
So in all likelihood, there would be a purchase price paid to Denmark because Denmark has control. Denmark governs Greenland right now. And so it would be a purchase price, like the Louisiana Purchase, like buying Alaska. And there's a long history of countries buying territories one from the other. And so that you'd have to go and negotiate it. We saw this week Donald Trump Jr. flew to Greenland and went there and reported back that he had a tremendous reception, that people were cheering him on, that they were wearing MAGA hats. I've heard multiple reports that the locals can't stand Denmark, that they're treated as second-class citizens by the Danes. And that, if you're a young Greenlander, the opportunity to become an American, that's a big deal in terms of your future. If Greenland becomes an American territory, the investment from the United States that goes into Greenland is suddenly very significant. And so that could well be appealing. Now, I would think there would be a real likelihood that you'd probably have a referendum of Greenlanders if they want to do it. It's not clear that you would, but I think there's a reasonable chance of that. And so you'd have both Denmark and Greenland to contend with. But I will say, from America's perspective, there would be enormous advantages to Greenland becoming an American territory. And I will say, just this week, interestingly enough, John Fetterman, Democrat senator from Pennsylvania, he was on Fox News. And he brought up Greenland. It was very interesting. I want you to listen to what John Fetterman had to say on this topic.
There's a lot of talk about Greenland, for example. Now, and I know there's a lot of freakouts, and of course I would never support taking it by force. But I do think it's a responsible conversation if they were open to acquiring it, and whether just buying it outright. I mean, if anyone think that's bonkers, it's like, well, remember the Louisiana Purchase? Oh, I think Alaska was a great deal too. $50 million, I think it was. It was referred to as Seward's folly, and now that was Alaska now. So I mean, open to having all kinds of conversations as well. And now I don't think it's not helpful to freak out, but some things might work out, some may not, but that's part of an ongoing dialogue. But he hasn't even taken office in 2 weeks, and we really need to pace ourselves if we're going to freak out over every last tweet or every last conversation or press conference. but
I love his demeanor there. It's like, we should be having this conversation. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, the conversation a lot of people listening are going to say is, Senator, what are we, $35 trillion in debt? How can we afford to buy Greenland? So how does the economics of that work?
Well, look, I don't know what a purchase price would be. We'd have to see. But I do think the mineral reserves there are significant, and the national security and geopolitical advantages are significant. And so we invest in policies that make a difference, that make America safer and make America more prosperous. And it is certainly possible, and in fact even likely, that Greenland would do that. Now, again, I don't know what the price would be. It's something that would have to be pursued. But it's interesting, since Trump started talking about this, you've seen Greenlanders talking about wanting independence, wanting to be their own country. And from Denmark's perspective, they may be sitting there going, well, wait a second. America could buy Greenland from us and we could get a crap ton of money. Or Greenland could just declare that.
So with that serious possibility, let's move to the third,
Panama.
Big story. Panama, the Panama Canal, Donald Trump making it very clear we're being taken advantage of.
Well, that's right. And look, you look at Panama and the Panama Canal. Jimmy Carter, number one, America built the Panama Canal. We lost many American lives building it. We invested major money building the Panama Canal. Teddy Roosevelt is one of the most significant things he did as president. Jimmy Carter gave it away. Gave it to Panama, and it was egregious. This week is Jimmy Carter's funeral, and when we did our remembrance of Jimmy Carter, I tried to find positive things to say about him, not to speak ill of someone who had just passed. But I will say Jimmy Carter's giving away the Panama Canal was one of the most egregious foreign policy mistakes in the history of our country. It was horrific. It undermined the safety and security and economic vitality of America. It made no sense. Now, can it be undone? I don't know. I think the likelihood of us getting the Panama Canal back is significantly lower than the likelihood of us acquiring Greenland. It's not nearly as low as the likelihood of Canada joining America. As I said, I don't think that is at all possible. I think that was purely a troll. I think Greenland is quite possible, and I put Panama somewhere in the middle. And Trump's argument is important on this, which is that when Jimmy Carter gave it away, Panama entered into an agreement with the United States, a legal agreement, and I could tell you, I and my team right now are examining the contours of that agreement to see exactly what Panama committed to. But Trump's argument is that Panama has broken the terms of that agreement, that they are not living up to, they are violating that agreement, and in particular, that they have essentially sold significant parts of the Panama Canal to China, that Chinese companies now control both ends of the Panama Canal, and they've ceded control to China. That's incredibly harmful. And Trump is also arguing that Panama charges American ships egregious prices. And look, we need to dig in more to the facts behind that, but that is a legal argument. I'll tell you what I think Trump is really doing is negotiating on price. And I think the outcome of this is going to be that America gets much more favorable prices, and it may also be a significant diminution of China's involvement in the Panama Canal. Both of those are very likely, but I want you to listen to what Trump had to say about Panama and Mar-a-Lago earlier today.
The deal was that, they have to treat us fairly. They don't treat us fairly. They charge more for our ships than they charge for ships of other countries. They charge more for our Navy than they charge for navies of other countries. They laugh at us because they think we're stupid, but we're not stupid anymore. So the Panama Canal is under discussion with them right now. They violated every aspect of the agreement, and they've morally violated it also. And they want our help because it's leaking and not in good repair. And they want us to give $3 billion to help fix it. I said, well, why don't you get the money from China? Because China's basically taken it over. China's at both ends of the Panama Canal. China's running the Panama Canal.
China's running the Panama Canal. And he says they laugh at us because they think we're stupid. We're not stupid anymore. When you hear the basics, that they're charging us more and our Navy more than others, now they want us to give them a bunch of money to fix the thing. He's got points that aren't political. They're just...
No, those are serious. And I think we're going to see a significant change, I believe, in the conduct of Panama concerning the Panama Canal. Will it result in the canal coming back to America? I don't know. That is a difficult hurdle to clear, but I am very glad President Trump is leading in on this issue. It's incredibly important, and China's growing influence over the Panama Canal is just stupid. It is unacceptable, and that's leadership that, frankly, can you imagine in a billion years Joe Biden or Kamala Harris making these points? You can't at all, because they don't defend America. They're celebrating, and I'm sure they cheered on when it happened. Jimmy Carter's giving it away to begin with, and it's the opposite of America First, where
Well, the president of Panama sees it different. And we'll get back to Canada in a moment. Here, I'll show you. Just for balance, fairness in reporting. Panama says U.S. spreading lies over free canal passage. Panama's president has accused the U.S. of spreading lies and falsehoods after the U.S. State Department claimed American government vessels were no longer required to pay a fee to transit through the Panama Canal. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has since rowed back his department's claim, but called the fee for American vessels absurd due to a treaty binding the U.S. to protect the canal if it comes under attack. It says here, Trump has repeatedly voiced his desire to regain control of the waterways since taking office. The Panama Canal is a 51-mile passage that links the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans across the Central American country. And it goes on. The president added that the U.S. government vessels, including Navy vessels, paid $6 to $7 million a year for the right of passage. It's not as if the canal toll is breaking the economy of the United States, he added. The Panama Canal Authority also made a statement saying it had not made any adjustment to tolls, adding that it was open to establishing a dialogue. Anyway, yeah, the president of Panama not seeing eye to eye with the United States on this, but after meeting with Rubio, I think we're likely to see some sort of a resolution here. And I know that it says here that Rubio met the canal's administrator alongside Molino on Sunday. America's top diplomat demanded that Panama make immediate changes to China's influence and control over the waterway. And Molino has denied allegations and rejected the plan, saying that the trade route is and will remain in Panama's hands. So it remains a point of sort of dispute. With regard to Greenland, well, we're getting some spin, I would say, from Trump's family and Trump himself on that front. We know that Denmark is not happy with the United States. And then with regard to Canada, I strongly disagree with the co-host of that podcast with Ted Cruz and Ted Cruz himself, both of whom seem to think that this is exactly what a president should be doing. And I would say I strongly disagree. This kind of behavior, this kind of talk from a president is irresponsible. As a result just of what he has said, he has destabilized Canada. He has reignited separatist tensions and movements within the country. He has literally put Canada on edge to a point where we're substantially closer to having the country break apart again. And this is a country that has a pretty long history of struggling to remain united as a single nation because of separatist sentiments in Quebec and because of people in especially Alberta and even other people out in Western provinces who would like to separate from Canada because they're so fed up with Quebec and Ontario. cultural issues, economic issues, all bubbling to the surface. So Trump, by doing what he's done, he's really effectively been meddling in Canadian politics, whether intentionally or unintentionally. That's what has been going on. And he has also damaged the relationship, maybe beyond repair, between Canada and the United States. In this respect, we don't trust the United States anymore as a reliable trading partner. We see the U.S. now as actually an existential threat to our sovereignty. So much so that Justin Trudeau hopped on a plane, and this weekend he's over in Europe meeting with European leaders to discuss trade issues because they don't trust the United States anymore and don't see the United States as a reliable partner on many fronts in terms of trade and defense. So this is not what a president should be doing. More, and even in addition to that, because of what Trump has said, it has damaged the Canadian and U.S. economies. It sent the stock market plunging when the deadline for his tariff approached, and when we came within like a day of them taking effect. And then he gave everyone a bit of breathing space with a 30-day pause. But the market tanked. Then he backed off. Didn't really get anything from Mexico or Canada with these threats that he didn't already have, except a bunch of chaos. And he's lost a lot of support up here in Canada, I would say, from people who were longtime supporters of Trump and MAGA. And you have the whole Maple MAGA movement up here, but I've seen erosion in support even among people who were longtime, die-hard Trump fans on the Canadian side of the border. And even some Americans have lost faith in Donald Trump as a result of what he has been doing. Those are the kinds of things a president should not be doing. It's up to a president to promote confidence, to instill confidence in the public, in the economy. Because any country, the existence of a country and any country's economy depends on confidence. If people feel that things are secure, if things are stable, they will feel confident in saving money, spending money, engaging in commerce, investing their money, putting their money in banks because they see them as stable institutions where their savings will be safe and where they might make a little bit of a return on a deposit or an investment, that they have to have confidence in a country's companies and enough confidence to invest in the stock market. But when you destabilize a vital and one of the most successful trading relationships in the world, when you destabilize that, you undermine confidence. As a result, we've seen, even in Canada now, some projects, some investments put on hold as companies sit back and wait to see what's going to happen. That's slowing down growth. It's slowing down the economy. That's all because of Donald Trump just doing this. Yak, 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 yak. That's not what a president, a prime minister, any kind of a leader should be doing at all. Quite the opposite. You need to keep things stable. You need to make people feel good about the economy. You have to give them a sense of trust and confidence. Everything when it comes to the economy is based on trust and confidence. The value of the dollar, the Canadian dollar, also suffered. It lost value because of what Trump has been doing. And there's still uncertainty here, so it's still very unstable. It's irresponsible. So many people just blindly supporting anything this guy does, but not me. Not me. I don't care if you're a conservative, a liberal, a New Democrat, a Democrat in the States, a Republican, a communist, whatever. I don't care. If you do something good, I'll acknowledge it. If you do something that's destructive, I'm going to call that out too. And that's what this has been. And that's me editorializing, but that's all based on empirical evidence. That's on valuation of stocks. That's based on, just go look at the graph on the Canadian dollar. It was still resilient. It went down to about 68 cents. And I'll tell you, there were a lot of real trolls, economic trolls, political trolls out there who were trying to undermine Canada intentionally while all of this was going on, with false posts on Elon Musk's free speech network, X/Twitter, saying that the Canadian dollar had tanked to just 47 cents against the US dollar. That wasn't true. Not true at all. Not 47 cents. It got down to about 68. 68. I think we might have a caller in here. Yes, I believe we do. Let's go to our first caller of the night. And there we go. Hang on a second here. Let me get them up on the screen. Maybe I've triggered somebody. Maybe somebody wants to acknowledge what I'm saying. Who's on the line with us tonight?
Alicia.
Alicia, welcome. You might want to turn your audio down. We're getting a little bit
That's
of
what I'm doing
feedback.
right now.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, I'm not agreeing with what Trump's doing,
Yeah.
but oh my God, when he finds out that Trudeau lied right to his face to give him that 30 more days, the crap's really going to hit the fan.
What do you mean when he finds out who lied to whom?
Trudeau lied right to Trump's face. He's not doing a darn thing about the border.
I see what
He
you're saying.
doesn't even
I
have
see.
the numbers to put on the border.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did tell Trump what we were going to do, the 1.3 billion, and then he also agreed to the additional money for a joint task force, I believe is what it was. How much money was that again? I can't recall, but there was an additional infusion of cash. Not a huge amount in
I know it was
scale.
over a 6-year period.
Yeah. So
and 10,000 special forces or something to go on the border.
yeah, there's some just saying that the staff of 10,000, but you are right. I mean, that's mostly people that we already have in place. And this whole plan was announced in last December, before any of this transpired. And it was actually negotiated, I believe, when or discussed with the Biden administration before Trump came into office. So Trump really didn't have anything to do with any of it. You're right about that. So I don't know if Trump even realized.
And then when he went down to renegotiate again, he's had 8 days, and we got 20 more days, and he hasn't made a move to put anybody on the border. And apparently the Army announced today that they're not going to secure the border.
Oh, the Canadian Armed Forces?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they were part of the equation anyway, so no surprise there.
So,
But like they do have a couple of helicopters, and some provincial governments have taken steps to beef things up at the border. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Trump didn't really get anything. We have somebody else joining the call too. Hang on, who else is going to be on the line with us? Hello, who else is on there with us tonight? Go ahead, you're on the air with us. Who's this? I don't know if they're hearing us or not.
Just a second here. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
It's
Is that
me.
John?
Yeah,
RV.
it's RV. Welcome, RV. How are you tonight?
Yeah, it's me, RV.
Well, go ahead. What do you think about Trump's first 3 weeks back in the White House?
Hello?
Can you hear
Not
us?
too bad. I'll tell you.
I'm okay. Do we have a delay? Like something weird's going on. But you go ahead, RV. The floor is yours.
Well, he's definitely under attack on Canada, and I honestly believe that he really wants us to be the 51st state.
I believe so too. Yeah. And
Yeah, let me find out what's going on here.
you maybe if your audio is up, you might have a delay, so you might want to turn the audio down on your computer or monitor or whatever it is that you're watching the
Just
program
hold on
on.
a second here.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Let me mute this. Okay, how about this? How's that?
It sounds
better,
fine
sorry?
here. That's probably better. Yeah.
Okay. What I was trying to say is that I don't think Trump is joking when he wants Canada to be a 51st state. I don't think it's a threat. I don't think it's a con to get us to do anything. I really honestly believe that he wants us to be a part of the 51st state because their dollar over there is screwed. And if we become part of their states, I mean, they're losing superpower. And if they were to get Canada to become part of them, well, then they gain back some of that power with resources and economy and everything else as well. So I'm not so sure that this is such a safe move from Trump. I honestly believe he really wants us to be a 51st state.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think
I
about that?
have to agree.
That's what I feel. I don't think he's fooling.
Go ahead, Alicia.
I don't think so either. I think he does. Because I heard today that some guy from Texas said that if they keep pumping the oil like they're planning, Texas is going to have no oil at all.
Well, they do need to frack now in the United States in order to get the oil that they want. It isn't like it was, many, many years ago when you just kind of stick a pin in the ground and you get a gusher. Now they have to pump massive amounts of water down into the earth in order to push through pressure the oil back up, the shale oil. So it's a different scenario down there.
And see, our economy is pretty screwed, Rick.
Yeah.
We're in bad shape. I mean, it's worse. I have a friend right now that's in El Salvador right now that she just transferred $1,000 Canadian into American, and she got $537 for $1,000 Canadian,
Yeah.
which is roughly around the 50% mark. Okay.
Yeah, because they charge fees on top of the exchange.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, in other words, our money to third world countries or other countries, our dollar is valued less out there per se transferring, than what it is between us and the United States. So if it's happening out there, they do not value our dollar at all. So our economy and people that bring business here, that's going to cause a problem for us.
Yeah, although the Canadian dollar, and you might want to, somebody should turn their audio down on your computer. Yeah, we're getting feedback. But the Canadian dollar is still one of the strongest currencies in the world. It's just that the U.S. dollar still dominates. It is the world reserve currency. So anywhere you go, pretty much to any country, they'll accept U.S. dollars. But when you go to pretty much any other country, any other currency you're carrying, if you're trying to use it locally to purchase things, when I was in, Costa Rica, they wanted U.S. dollars, not Canadian dollars.
Costa Rica too. She was in Costa Rica, and it was even less there.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just the way that is. But if you go to a bank and you exchange there, you get a more fair rate on your Canadian currency, and then you can convert it to either U.S. dollars or the local currency and conduct affairs that way. But I understand what you're saying.
Do you know another interesting thing there, Rick? She's only allowed. It used to be you're allowed to change 10,000 CAD for American, and right now they're only allowing $1,000 exchange. not 10,000 anymore. It's only 1,000. This changed overnight, Rick. In case 3 or 4 days ago, that's when it changed. She was getting 60 thick. She's been out there since January 17th.
Okay.
And this just changed a few days ago. It went from 66 cents down to 45 cents, is what she's saying. She showed me the receipts. I have the receipt. She emailed it to me. This happened like within hours the same day, that they will not allow our Canadian dollar anymore, or only so much of it, to be transferred to USD over in places like Costa Rica, because she was there, and in El Salvador. She's Canadian. She's coming back, but she's, I'm just telling you the information. That's the information out there.
Okay. Somebody else joining the call now. Who else is on the line with us?
Oh, this is Phil.
Well, welcome, Phil. Go ahead.
How you doing?
Excellent.
I just listen to all the talk here and everything I've been following.
Again, somebody has their audio up. You might, whoever that is, please turn your audio off, mute it, so that we don't get the feedback. Okay, Phil, try now. Okay, Phil? No, somebody...
Okay, I think I can hear a little better.
Yeah, somebody still has their audio up. Okay, go ahead, Phil. I think we've got it fixed now.
Yeah, I'm just, listening to the conversation and following the situation the last couple of weeks. I think Trump is not really to blame here, because the reason we have economical problems in this country is because of our own government. They're the ones putting in all the policies which are causing our problems in the country. I think if it wasn't for Trump doing what he would do, our government wouldn't step up, because this is all he wants us to do is Canada to carry its own weight and start doing its part. And in terms of the economical situation, that's on our own government for doing that.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if it's on our own government. I think the whole world's got a problem with the economy right now, not just our government.
Well, it is, but it's the globalist policies that are being put in place that are causing this. It's Agenda 2030. All these globalist policies, all this mass immigration is causing these problems. We got to get rid of all that. All right, and Trump is just doing what's best for his country. Well, why aren't we doing that? Pierre Poilievre had all this time since he got in to be Canada first. All of a sudden, Trump announces this stuff. Now he's Canada first. I never heard anything from it before. All of a sudden, he cares about those issues.
Doing everything right for the country? I don't think so. There's a lot of things I disagree with. Trump is not doing everything right for his country.
I'm not saying it's perfect, but he's trying to do what's right for his country, which our politicians need to be doing.
Well, I would say that what Trump is doing right now is not right for his country, because he's undermining long-standing trade relationships, and even political relationships with his greatest allies. He's going around picking fights with countries that he needs on his side. As a result, now we're gonna trade less with the United States from this day forward. Right now, we're over forging stronger ties with Europe right now, today.
I agree, but Canada needs to do its own part. Start doing its own part when it comes to national security and all that, and border security, and building our military up rather than spending money wasting it on globalist policies and all that. Start building up the military. We rely on the U.S. for our protection. It should not be. We need to do our part of that.
And RV, I think your audio is still up on your computer. It's causing a lot of feedback here. Can you mute your computer audio or something?
Yeah, I'm having trouble understanding. There's a lot of background noise here.
Yeah.
You're muted, Rick.
Am I muted?
Yeah.
I'm muted?
Okay, you're fine now.
Okay, yeah. I think it was just the feedback loop that was causing a problem.
I heard today too that China signed agreement with Canada to take their oil, and they canceled the oil in the state, and Trump is fuming about it.
Really? I didn't hear that. I'm going to look that up while we're... So you're saying, I don't know if that's accurate. Where did you
Well,
see
it might
that?
not be.
Yeah.
It could be just a phony podcaster, but they said that China's going to buy our oil and that they were canceling the oil from United States.
Yeah, I know that, I know Canada is looking to sell more oil overseas, including to China. But that's, a longer term thing. I don't know that there were any deals made like in the last couple of days, and we have that Trans Mountain pipeline that runs out west with an eye toward achieving those goals. And we will do that now. I don't think there's any question about it, unless, of course, we're taken over by the United States. And Phil, I would say this. We need to also not lose sight of why the pipelines were not built east to west. And this is largely about oil in
Our
Canada.
fault.
It's not really just our fault. It's because we do have foreign governments, and I would argue that you have U.S. big oil companies and the U.S. government meddling in Canadian politics. I think you have corruption within Canadian government and through NGOs that are funded quite often by U.S. oil companies and even Middle Eastern oil companies, but largely by U.S. oil companies that have a vested interest in making sure Canada never built those pipelines east to west. So it's a lot cheap. You can make a lot more money by influencing the political process in Canada and using separatism as a tool to drive division and prevent the construction of pipelines that would allow Alberta to get its oil to other markets in the world, including Europe and Asia, and force them to run their pipelines down through the United States, where the U.S. gets to then refine the oil and then ship it back into Canada at a profit. And at the same time, the United States has not treated Alberta very nicely when you really think about it, because they really will only pay a below market rate for the oil that they take from Alberta, because they are Alberta's only real customer other than what we consume domestically. And that isn't very much. So it's a single source customer, and you've got big oil money sort of blocking the diversification of Canada's customer base through covert means. Those environmental groups that protest and say, we don't want those pipelines coming through here, or you have politicians even in Quebec, I kind of wonder who's lining their pockets, getting them to stand up and say, we don't want those dirty pipelines running through our province. Well, they're, follow the money, give it some really serious thought. And that's why it's not just what's happening. It's not just the government's fault. You have provinces that have territorial rights, land rights, mineral rights, oil rights, resource rights, because of the way our Constitution is written. These big oil company lawyers, they know all of this. The politicians know this, and they also know that just greasing some Canadian palms with some corrupt politicians here and there just allows them to prevent us from realizing our full potential economically as a nation, and even just our potential as a country. That's a long-standing problem.
Look at Elizabeth May. She had a lot to say, and remember, I can still see her being taken away in handcuffs because of her protest in BC over the pipeline. And then she had her big mouth going about Trump putting the tariffs on, but lately she hasn't been saying a word.
Mm-hmm. And see, even if it's not corrupt, one of the things that foreign countries, even the United States, as much as I love the U.S. and they may be our neighbor and friend, okay, they will fund environmental groups or non-governmental organizations, political activists, even political parties through back channels, and dark money will flow in that's kind of, funneled into the system in a sort of a laundered way, so you can't really tell where it's coming from, in order to keep those organizations active, because they stand in opposition to the construction of the pipelines. And we need to. So I don't think there's any. I think that's a very realistic and a very real thing that Canada has been grappling with. That's in the shadows. You don't really see it up front, but that's why this isn't just our own fault. It is not. It's a much more complex issue that goes way back in time and really becomes pronounced in the 1970s with Pierre Trudeau and the National Energy Program and efforts back then to start to develop the oil sands. This is a very complex and long historied issue.
Oh, I agree 100%.
But any other thoughts on that, Phil, or what do you think?
Well, I think the Liberals are using this for a political advantage with the upcoming election. I just seen a poll or something. I don't know how accurate it is or something, but apparently Canadians are favoring Mark Carney over Pierre Poilievre, 40% or whatever it was, 20 or something. To me, they're using a political advantage.
I heard that.
Yeah, but I don't think that I wouldn't give Justin Trudeau so much credit that you think that he masterminded this thing. This is Trump. This is Trump, and that's the unintended consequence. Of
I just think our
doing,
politicians
right?
don't know how to handle it. Because Trump is the businessman and he's a negotiator, and I think we got weak people in Ottawa that don't know how to deal with it. I think too, if we did our part in that, this would all go away.
What do you want us to do?
There's no such a thing in friendship when it comes to business. I can say that with friends just up the road from me, buying hay from them, and I quit buying hay from them. So they called a friend of theirs to see if I wanted to buy the hay from them.
Yeah.
So when it comes to business, there's no such a thing as friendship.
That's largely true. But Phil, what is it that you think Canada should do to satisfy Trump?
Well, he talked about border security and our military. We're dependent on the U.S. for military protection. We need to do our part in that and get that up to par and all that. We're way behind in all those things, and I think that's what it's largely about. And the good way for him to do that is use the tariff situation.
Well,
I agree. Get the border done, and then see what happens.
What are we supposed to do with that border?
I have no idea.
It's actually going to be
4,000
effective,
miles?
in terms of, fixing or eliminating the flow of fentanyl. What are we supposed to do?
I heard the fentanyl isn't that much.
It is
40 grams or something they seized.
40 pounds, 21,000 pounds coming in from Mexico, and here's the kicker, right? The fentanyl that's involved in the Canadian border, it's largely coming through the border into Canada. A little bit goes back over to the U.S. side, but mostly it's coming into Canada. And the truth of the matter is, because I've been researching this, the fentanyl that is then produced here for export, the main markets are Australia and New Zealand, not the United States.
Which makes perfect sense.
Of course, because the ingredients, a lot of the stuff coming into Canada, the precursors, some of it comes in through Canadian borders, like at ports or through airports. A lot of it's coming from Mexico to the United States and then up into Canada. And the last thing organized criminals want to do is cross the border twice. So why would you import the stuff into Canada, then turn around and then export it back to the United States, unless you really had to, or unless it changed hands? And it doesn't. That's not what's happening. There is a little bit that goes back over, but mostly, and there are super labs, as they characterize them, especially in BC. A lot of this is happening out in British Columbia. That's because you have, more of a Chinese influence there, and a lot of the stuff is coming into port from China at that point, but then it's exported back out to mostly Europe, and the two main countries are New Zealand and Australia. Those are the target markets. And then, yes, we do have some Mexican drug cartels up here. That's been a long-standing thing for like decades and decades and decades. And I remember covering stories like back in the 90s when I was at CTV about Mexican Mennonites who were smuggling at that time mostly marijuana from Mexico into the United States, and then finally the destination was Canada. And of course, they wouldn't even arouse suspicion when they were crossing the border because they're very humble and very conservative in their dress, and they're religious, and so they were smuggling massive amounts of marijuana. And finally, Canada Customs kind of clued into this, and the border guards finally started to pick up on what was going on. And it had been going on for a long time, years and years and years. But there are Mexican drug cartels up here. But I would argue that what the U.S. administration, the comments from Peter Navarro this past week saying that Canada has this big problem with Mexican drug cartels, it's an over amplification, a distortion of what the issue truly is and where the real problem is. And as a result, I think what we're ending up with here is the Canadian government spending $1.3 billion to pay people to run around in uniforms at the border and pretend like they're doing something to satisfy Donald Trump and give him the photo op that he wants. And in reality, that won't really be an effective measure taken to combat the real problem. And we do have a real problem, but if you're going to fix the problem, I think you need better intelligence. You need more sophisticated surveillance technologies. There are probably other things that I'm definitely other things that I'm not thinking of sitting in this chair here tonight, because I'm not an absolute expert when it comes to combating the drug trade at the border. But this is like a knee-jerk reaction to a bombastic comments from a president who is not thinking through what he's saying before he says it, I think. And you don't get to good solutions this way.
The thing is we shouldn't have to have Trump tell us what to do. Our politicians or our government should have been doing these things long before. It shouldn't take Trump to do that, to tell us for us. You know what I mean? Like all the money that they've wasted over the last 9 years on globalist policies, UN compact of migration, it's all a waste of money on a fake climate change crisis.
Yeah, well, I'm not an advocate for climate change, and I think that a lot of those policies, I think you're largely right about that, and it's a bureaucratic tool that they use to control companies and people and tax. It's just a bureaucratic way of overlaying taxation. But I would also argue, though, that Canada was already taking steps to deal with the border. And I think if we had Poilievre as the prime minister, you'd get a much more aggressive actions on combating the drug issue. I don't like the way that Canada has been dealing with the drug issue, where they're basically appeasing and providing safe injection sites and things of that nature in our communities. I think that those policies have been a failure. And I get kicked in the shins every night that I say anything like this, but I'm strongly opposed to the legalization of marijuana. I know that it's very popular, and that's what got Trudeau elected, was his promise to liberalize drug laws and legalize cannabis. But as a result, as I've been doing the research, the fentanyl problem is in part because of the legalization of marijuana, and that's because organized crime isn't making money from the marijuana anymore, so they've shifted their focus to other kinds of illicit drugs. And fentanyl is one of those drugs that they can focus on that has a much higher profit margin. It's much easier to smuggle because you don't need to have very much of it. It's extremely potent. It's way easier to smuggle than marijuana. And you don't need to grow it in a field. It's so as a result, they want to eat, and they want their Rolls Royces and Ferraris and all their and all the money that they were making before. So they've moved on, and they're doing other things. As a result, we now have even more deadly drugs on the streets. Anybody have any thoughts on that? RV? Alicia? Phil?
No thoughts, because you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, I just, no question, we've got problems, guys. I absolutely agree that we do. But from my perspective, they're our problems. Let us deal with them. I guess Trump can comment to some degree, but right now he's meddling in Canadian politics. That's foreign interference. It's destabilizing the country. It's hurting our economy. And I think he should just keep his nose out of it and mind his own damn business, frankly. Let us deal with our own problems. Let us deal with Trudeau. The election will come and he will be gone. And then we can move on and hopefully get some better policies in place.
Yet I'd almost bet that Trump doesn't even understand how our parliament works.
Probably not in detail, but he does have advisors, I think. And what's going on right now, Alicia, I think you're right. I think he does want Canada as the 51st state, and they've seen vulnerabilities here in Canada. That's why he's doing what he's doing. The fentanyl issue is not really, in my view, what this is about. The military spending, it sort of is, but that's on a broader NATO scale. That's also another sidebar issue that he's using to justify his actions on trade. He's trying to position the U.S. for some sort of either a breakup of the country so that he can absorb the parts that he wants, largely Alberta and the resource-rich provinces. He probably doesn't even care about Quebec. He wants the industry from Ontario, especially the auto industry, but he can get that anyway with the tariffs if he imposes them, because he'll make it so that the factories in Ontario may not be viable, and over time they'll move production into the U.S., which is a larger market, and leave us, in a more difficult position. I think that's what it's about.
He wants Quebec. He wants Quebec because of the hydro. He wants Canada because of the Northwest Passage. Before 2050, there's going to be no ice whatsoever up there.
If these climate change projections hold to be true to some degree, I suppose, and I think the climate might be changing, but the reasons behind that, I've got my own views, and I'm sure you guys do too.
Climate has been changing since the Earth began.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, and well, and I would say, like, right now, we've had some ice storms here, just like freezing rain. We get it this time of year every year, right around the same time. It's almost like clockwork, so it's been like that my whole life. But some winters are warmer, some are colder, but that's a whole other issue. What do you think?
And the Earth is changing its axis, and it does that every 100 years or something.
Yeah, I heard that too. I don't know how much of an impact that has, but the world is certainly off kilter. Anyway, look at it right now.
What a feather in Trump's hat. He would go down in history if he acquired Canada and Greenland and had the North. His legacy would be just phenomenal.
Yeah, I think
that's what he's looking at.
Yeah, I think you are right, Alicia. And even, I've been saying this for quite some time, that Canada has been in play. I said this 2 years ago because of trial balloons floated by social media influencers, like even especially Tucker Carlson, Tim Pool, some others, Lieutenant Steve Rogers. They're all suggesting that Canada be taken over, literally.
I can remember when I was young, my parents and stuff going to Watertown where my cousins and my dad's uncle and stuff lived.
Yeah.
And it was talked about acquiring Canada way back then.
Yeah, we have another
So
caller coming in on the
Canada has
phone here right
always
now.
been in play.
Are you,
But
sir, are you looking to be on the show? Okay. You know, you'd be better off phoning the number on the screen on the new phone system.
Okay.
So just check the screen, dial the number, then the PIN, and then I'll put you right in, and you can join the conversation that way. It'll be much clearer.
Okay, I will do that.
Excellent. Sorry to interrupt everybody there. Please carry on with the conversation.
yeah, Canada's always been in play, but this is the first time that it's actually gone this far since the 1812 or whatever.
You mean since 1867 or the war? Well, it doesn't matter. For a long time, the War of 1812, Confederation, 1867. I think that really what's in play here, frankly, is what Steve Bannon said 2 days ago in his interview with Global News, where he's saying that we're seeing a reconfiguration of nation states, and Trump sees this happening. He's aware of it. Russia has aspirations to rebuild the Russian Empire. They've got a plan that I've read about to really assert control over much of Eurasia. You see China as a great power that will expand its influence and reach in its area of the globe, and then the United States will ultimately, if this vision, this shared vision between even Putin and Trump comes to pass, you'll see them asserting control over North America, Central America, maybe even much of South America. It's hard to say how far it will go. But who else is on the show with us now?
Oh, this is Raphael.
Well, welcome, Raphael. Thank you for calling the new number.
And I want to say good evening to everybody, all the people on the panel. Rick, this today, thinking about you, I spent some time, thinking about that situation, that topic, United States taking over Canada. Trump is not a student of history. Trump is making a really, really big mistake, because if there is one thing, people do not associate Canada with war, with fighting, but make no mistake, these people are strong. These people can fight. Take the hockey player. That means it's just because they don't like to fight, but that doesn't mean they cannot fight. Remember the last time I called you, I gave you the number how many Canadians lost their life in World War II, World War III, World War I, World War II, and the Korean. Rick, that border you see, the Canadian border, it took 70 years of fighting for the Canadian to establish that border. It's not a border that the United States just gave them. People don't understand that. After the War of 1812, the Canadians were fighting the Americans until 1815 to establish the border in that area, like the Vermont, those areas. That means people do not understand that. These people are not Canada. They are not going to give 1 inch. They will not allow the American to step 1 foot in Canada as a conquistador. They are not the Mexican. It is not about to happen. And I think people, yes.
Raphael,
Yes.
you got to remember, those men in World War II were called the Great. You got to look at the people, the people in Canada now. They just can't compare to the people back then, and the people that's in Canada now are basically a bunch of wussies, and they're not going to fight. They're going to turn tail and run. I'd bet you there's not 50% of Canadians left that could even fight, and wouldn't even fight. We got women, we got men in dresses, we got, well, you can just go on and on and on. But the people nowadays, you can't compare to the men back then. The men back then were men.
Yeah, we have somebody else who just joined us as well. Who else? Who just joined the call? Go ahead.
It's Dragon, of
Dragon
course.
from Montreal. Welcome back, my friend.
Hi, Dragon.
Well, I want to let the lady finish her point. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, I'm finished, Dragon. I'm just saying that the people of Canada are not the same people that were fighting in World War I and World War II. It's a different bunch of people. And half them want to hand over Canada as it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Very different mentality, and I would think also culture that have changed for the last 40 years. I'm 44, so I can tell.
Yeah. Well, I'll be 68.
So what's on your mind, Dragon? What do you
think? On the question, well, on one of your previous questions, Rick, you asked, what could we do as Canadian to help the U.S. on the border? Well, let's go back to 1990s and around 2000 when we had a certain bikers war in Montreal, Quebec, or every region, and even in the U.S., because it was all interconnected in certain ways. So we had the police of Montreal, the RCMP, in every big quarters of the law, basically working hand in hand with U.S. Border Patrol and whatnot, or intelligence, to be able to counter down the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine back in the days. Rick, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'll just come back to what I said the other night. If Donald Trump really wanted us to help him secure the border, he didn't need to come up here and punch us in the face. All he had to do was ask. We were working on it anyway, and we would have happily taken further steps to assist. This is not the right approach. We're friends, neighbors, cousins, brothers, sisters. We would just do it. So stop punching us in the face.
Right? Because, I mean, back in the days in the 90s, it was, I would say, a conjoined problem, right? You had chapter of bikers everywhere. So basically, at some point, I know that in Montreal, it's probably not very known to everyone, but at a certain point, they were sort of a anger nest against the biker laws and how the police were not interacting enough, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Or doing enough. One kid died from a Jeep in Hochelaga Maisonneuve from, actually, it was a young 11-year-old, I think, or 13-year-old that was a bystander next to that Jeep that exploded. And as you know, back in the days, bombing other cars that, if you were a biker, you would, every day goes under your car to look if there's not something that doesn't belong there, kind of thing. That was a thing. So yeah, that was a turning point.
I remember
think, where
I remember those days. There were killings, and it was a biker war was going on, essentially. Yeah.
Yep. And all about the drug cartels, and it was all about that. Actually, it was all a question of who's getting the territory of whom.
Yeah.
And basically, yeah, that was the big problem.
And you
So
know,
that's probably an answer.
and you know, for Trump to
Sorry,
hang,
sorry, go ahead.
for Trump to hang the threat of tariffs on this issue of fentanyl and drugs and border security and immigration and these things, you know, it's not fair. It's in my mind, it's clearly a ruse, an excuse, a justification on a legal basis that he may need to take further action for what he really wants. And, you know, I think that is about making Canada the 51st state. And the reason I say that is if you look back through time, even during the era of prohibition, there was illegal booze flowing across the border like crazy. You had corrupt customs officials on both sides of the border, you know, taking money to look the other way while Al Capone had his booze flowing across, you know, the border. You look at Windsor today, you have Hiram Walker there. These are big booze companies that were established because of the illegal booze trade, illegal drug trade. These are problems for which there is no real permanent solution. You can mitigate them, you can reduce these things, but it's virtually impossible to completely wipe out the drug trade. So it's quite easy to point your finger and say, aha, look at that country, Mexico or Canada. They're a den of drug dealers. You better fix that or else X this or that. It's a problem that will never go away. So it's just an excuse.
And just to give you a point, in the 20s, it was O'Reilly that was running the booze in Montreal for Al Capone. Just saying.
Yeah.
So Montreal was also there.
Yeah, it's just this is an excuse. And we're happy to help. We don't want the problem here either. But a lot of the problem is what's coming from the United States into Canada, not the other way around. So we could easily make the counter argument to Donald Trump and say, why don't you do something about your drug problem? It's a big problem for us up here. Why don't you get your house in order, man? But of course we can't because we're the smaller player and our politicians wouldn't dare. We don't want to upset our neighbor and friend and trading partner. So our politicians have been very careful about everything they've been saying, but Trump is just saying whatever comes off the top of his head. He doesn't care. It's all disruptive. And that's because I think he really has a greater agenda. And I think Alicia and I are kind of in alignment on that.
Well, Trump came right out and said it, that he's going to break how he's going to take Canada, it's through financial.
Yeah. Tim Pool, right? Dragon, you pointed out that post from Tim Pool, social media influencer, who posted on X. He said, first we're going to destroy the Canadian economy, and I'm paraphrasing, and then we're going to invade and take it over. Well, there you go. And he's just one of many who have been saying it for the last 2 years.
And he's talking about the drug problem.
Once we're going to roll over
that's
from
the way
economic sanctions.
Yeah. And somebody new just joined. Who's on the line with us now? Sorry, who is it?
It's Canada RV back.
Oh, you're back.
I'm not used to this system that you're running, so
yeah.
Like I have my mic muted on my phone. I guess I have to do that, kind of like muting YouTube, right?
I'm not sure. I guess whatever's working.
It's working fine now. I'm not backfeeding now, right?
No, it sounds good now. No feedback loop, so it's good.
All right.
Yeah. Did you want to add something to the conversation right now? Did you have a thought?
Well, I'm gonna listen for now, and I'll join in. Now that I'm not talking over somebody like I was before.
Okay. All right. So overall, yeah, there's a lot of turmoil that's been, injected into everything because of what Trump has been doing over the past 3 weeks. It has been a whirlwind. Actually, I would say when I was putting together today's broadcast, I was like, what are we going to talk about tonight? This has been the slowest day so far over the past 3 weeks. But every other day up until today has just been a whirlwind. Like I'm suffering from like whiplash because first we're going this way, then we're going that way, and then there's another executive order that hits over here, and then he says something that lights a political fire over there. It's been incredible, and what he's doing with DOGE on the U.S. side, really just lighting the United States on fire too. Talk about triggering people. Oh my goodness. What are you guys thinking about
I gotta
that?
agree with that. I like what he's doing there.
Do you? Yeah.
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 Sending money, millions of dollars to Peru for a trans puppet show.
Yeah. I'm not. See, the thing is, though, I understand, but I don't really like quite the way he's doing it. I have real concerns because he's doing an end run around the Constitution. It's Congress that is supposed to approve the spending, and he's just appointed an unelected billionaire who, benefits from massive government contracts for all of his companies, from Tesla to SpaceX and the Boring Company. All those are dependent on government contracts, and he's in charge now of the department that oversees government contracts. He also has access to all the data that that affects even his competitors. So he can learn about their business dealings. It's unfair. I would say it's unethical on that front. There is a way to go about making cuts, but you see, the other issue is if some of these programs were approved, it's because voters voted for the politicians at the time who created the programs. But then there's a process that I think should be followed to constitutionally deal with that. I'm not sure if that it's really ethical to just simply shut down programs on an executive order and the power then extended through an unelected businessman who's just in there given access to everything and just, I don't like this program, it's gone. I don't like this program, it's gone too. Everything's gone. And I think ultimately this will probably end up in a bunch of lawsuits, especially where government employees have simply been terminated, probably without real cause. And so you're going to have massive numbers of government employees coming back, pushing back against this, saying, I was fired unfairly, unjustly. I was doing my job, let go for no reason other than Elon Musk decided one day that he was just going to fire everybody. And then there are going to be all these settlements. This could end up costing the government more than he appears to be saving money now. But I don't think in the long run it may work out that way. We'll have to see how it plays out.
I think the bottom line, I think Elon Musk is recognizing money laundering.
Corruption.
Maybe
not illegal corruption, but yeah, definitely corruption because, yeah.
I don't trust Elon Musk as far as I can throw him.
Yeah, well, me either.
I don't think he should even be in the Trump administration. I think he's a Trojan. I don't know. It's just my opinion. I think he's a Trojan in there. I do not trust Elon Musk.
I agree with you, RV. It's a clear conflict of interest in my view. What do you guys think?
No, I do think he's a Trojan too. Sorry, I just will be quick on this one. Yeah, he's a Trojan, I think, also. And there's another point. I think he's also kind of breaking the guardrail, and not only that, but passing through the separation of power that the U.S. usually have. So,
I guess I'm outnumbered because I like Musk, and I think he's an outsider, and I don't really think he's looking into contracts or anything. I think he's just going down like I think now he's looking at the teachers, the education part. Apparently, they've spent the most on education, and their kids are 40th out of 40th in recognizing on being educated, and they're spending the most money.
Yeah, just it's he's taking a wrecking ball to everything. I think too there's a degree of revenge here. They seem to be targeting political opponents, people who crossed Trump. In fact, I saw today a story. This one cracked me up. The Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. He he fired the the director of the chair of the chairman of the board, right? The lady who's been running the place for years, and because she was the one who alerted the FBI to the way he was handling those government documents that resulted in the FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago. He really didn't like her, so he canned her. And did you see who he replaced the position with?
No.
Himself. He appointed himself to the chairman of the board. In a
Actually,
tweet,
I
in
think
a
I
Truth
did read
Social
something
post.
about that.
I was like, and I'm appointing whoever he worded it, this great person to be the new chair, Donald J. Trump. It was he fired her and took her job.
Psychopath. Sorry, guys.
Talk about
I
an
had
ego.
to cut that one.
Like, that's how you does that. I don't know if that really is that about cleaning up corruption, or is that vengeance?
Well, if Trump is cleaning up corruption or anything else, and he's so worried about the people and the future, why is he signed on to all this AI stuff? This is, the AI stuff.
I'm not so happy about that myself.
And yet he signed right on to it. How big was billions of dollars is that contract? All this AI vaccination
500.
and everything. For each and have a vaccination for each and every individual kind of cancers and everything, all made by AI.
Yeah, custom vaccines for cancer, developed and tailored to you specifically within 48 hours.
Right.
What could
I
go
gotta
wrong?
look at it this way: if you're going to die from cancer, what's the difference?
Well, this is supposed to save your life, apparently.
Right. So I would grab onto it then.
It's not supposed to kill you. You're not going to die anyway if you have cancer, right? The vaccine's supposed to save you.
Yeah, the idea is that it detects, trace amounts of antibodies or whatever it is that's in your blood, so they can determine specifically what kind of cancer you're at risk for, or if you're even maybe developing cancer at the very, very, very early stages. And then they can take that blood sample and produce a vaccine to prevent the cancer from spreading or taking hold, with a vaccine that is custom tailored to you, and they do it within 48 hours. Now, I'm open to the science. I'm open to it myself, but I want some sort of proof positive that this is safe.
And effective.
And effective, yes. Yeah, show me the proof. Where are the studies to show that doing this within 48 hours is going to be safe and effective? I don't know how you get there, but, well,
Well, it's in its infant stage, so it's not going to be in probably our lifetime.
Oh, yes, it will, because AI is being developed at an exponential rate. Just look at what's happened even over the past 2 years. Amazing advances just on the consumer side. I just saw this within the past 2 weeks. I reported on it here on Maverick News that NATO is now in possession of artificial intelligence that is being used on a limited scale in the battlefield, even in Ukraine, where it is allowing NATO forces, and I don't know if it's true, maybe it was just propaganda, but it was a real media report. I ran clips from Times Radio, who seemed to be among the first to get it out of the UK, saying that this artificial intelligence can predict the future. It can tell where the enemy is going to be before they get there. So they can tell where the troop movements are going to be, what kind of weapons they're going to bring into the theater by predicting based on all this massive amounts of data collected from satellites, intelligence sources, what they're getting from, monitoring communications, all of this massive amounts of data. They feed it into the system, and then artificial intelligence is able to literally predict the future so that they know what the enemy is going to do before the enemy knows. Now, how scary is that?
And there's also some studies that AI will eventually destroy itself and start going against even its own, and it'll only learn so much, and then it'll start going against itself as well.
This is,
really dangerous for humanity because it doesn't have any feelings, it doesn't have any thought, it doesn't know how humans react or anything else. I mean,
they do seem to be building an algorithmic understanding of human emotions, because I've asked questions based on emotions to try to get an emotional response from AI engines with ChatGPT and Grok, and they do give you the systems do give you back humanistic kinds of answers that seem plausible. But the other issue here, and this goes back to energy and oil, natural gas, countries, especially like the United States, establishing artificial intelligence research centers, they need massive amounts of energy, and that means natural gas. So it goes hand in hand. And these AI centers, like the one that was announced in that news conference with Trump, where they were getting $500 billion in investment in order to facilitate AI research, they need massive amounts of energy. So they're building power plants dedicated just to these AI research centers, where they're putting up massive amounts of power to run these supercomputers in order to develop this AI technology, because we are in an AI race. China, the United States, the two leaders, and we've just seen in the last couple of weeks, China potentially even leapfrogging over the United States with technology that was developed at a fraction of the cost, and it consumes a fraction of the energy, which is why NVIDIA lost $600 billion in stock valuation in a single day, which was a record.
Mm-hmm. Very dangerous race. Very dangerous race for humanity, for sure.
It is.
It's not going to be good for humanity, no matter what way you look at it.
And Alicia, so go ahead, Harvey.
And that's going to be our problem.
Potentially, yeah, it could be. It's destabilizing even to the economy at this point, but at the same time, it also represents great opportunities if we can harness it in a safe way, because it can result in massive improvements in efficiency, economic efficiencies, and productivity, and that in itself could help us grow the economy out of the debt that we are currently in. Whether that will happen, though, remains to be seen.
But what about the people that need these jobs that AI is going to take over? How's that going to help the economy if people are on the streets? And if it takes over
what we're seeing, basically,
20 jobs, that could take over 20 or 30 jobs, just one AI machine.
Sorry, go ahead, Alicia.
Like I said before, the young workforce, they're having a fit because they got to work 8-hour days. So I think that's why they've got to develop this AI workforce, because the young don't seem to want to work anymore.
Well, the AI will be integrated into robots. We're seeing that personal assistants or personal robots will become something that will become commonplace even within the next few years. It looks like, and here's the thing: if there are robots powered by AI that you can buy, even if it was, say, $100,000, right? And you had a robot that could complete all kinds of complex tasks to replace a human, that robot would become your personal slave, essentially. You could send your robot to work in your place, or put your robot to work in a business that you create. And the more robots you have, the more economic power you have. This changes our society. It changes our economy.
Well,
and what are humans going to do?
If you have seen the movie Megan, you don't want that. Seriously, bro, you don't want to have a slave as a robot.
This is why RV,
I wouldn't mind somebody to clean the house.
Well, you can have that when you get yourself a personal robot assistant with AI intelligence. And RV, I think you're touching on an important point, because I think we're probably looking at a restructuring of society and maybe a need for some sort of a new economic social contract to make sure that people who are displaced by this technology still have some way to survive, so that you have a fair distribution of income, which is a very socialistic perspective on it. But maybe we'll need that because there won't be any other alternative, so that eventually we get to a place where a lot of people do end up living a life of leisure.
UBI.
Well, robots do the work, right?
UBI. And
maybe
the companies that own these robots and AI robots pay the UBI, and everybody sits around and does nothing.
Ourselves in the foot.
And then these now we're into like a whole new ball of wax, right? Like other issues.
Different new world.
But in a way, it's sort of an extension of even the industrialization of our society, the Industrial Revolution, the evolution of the assembly line, and we adapted. And actually, we found that over time, it really just improved the standard of living for everyone. Because even as companies became more efficient because of more productive methods to put their widgets out into the marketplace, everybody ends up benefiting from that, not just the producer or the owner of the economic capacity, but also consumers, because consumers benefit, we all benefit, because we get consumer goods at lower prices. And the economy then expands out, and people are able to engage in a variety of other activities, go to work doing service-based things. Sorry, what?
If everyone's on UBI, how can we afford these products?
I'm not sure. I mean, maybe we won't have to have universal basic income.
It doesn't matter
I'm not
how much we know.
I'm not a big fan of UBI myself, because it's like paying people to not be productive. So I don't think it's ultimately the solution. Maybe we'll have to go there, but
if people don't work or have exercise, they're not going to even live this long.
But maybe as a result of the technology, people will find new ways to be productive, new ways to add value to society, and find other ways to market their skills and the products or services they produce. New services. Hard to say.
Well, you got to remember one thing, guys. If we go back when you had the revolution of the industries and the steel, this is where you had a sort of a downfall of the dollar and a depression. And this is when you had actually, like Rick explained, where you had the industrialization getting and growing with the manipulation of the thing, or just the mechanization of the workforce created an economic boom. So that's probably where we're heading We just don't know yet.
It's just like what we're doing right now. Not very long ago, the only way to communicate was over a landline telephone. Before that, it was the telegraph. Before that, it was, on written pieces of paper because they produced the printing press. Before that,
Pony Express.
yeah, I mean, so technology changes over time, and then people are concerned about it. Everything we're doing here is displacing legacy media. And yet it's creating all kinds of new opportunities for a lot of other people, including yourselves, to participate in something that's much larger than just the old legacy radio, TV, and print media outlets that used to be there. So everything evolves. And I think in some ways we're better off because of this. In other ways, we are maybe further behind. But you see what I'm saying? Technology changes things. We just have to adapt and figure things
Well,
out.
what do you think about this, Rick?
Yeah.
What do you think about technology moving a little too fast, and it's actually destroying more than what it does? Technology is moving way too fast. People can't even keep up. The next thing you know, your phone is outdated, and you've only had it a month, and it's outdated.
Yeah.
Moving just a little bit too fast, I think. I think technology is fine. You got to move at a slower pace so that the world can adapt. If it moves too fast, the world can't adapt to it, and before you know it, we're obsolete. All of us are obsolete, right?
I understand what you're
Right,
saying.
well,
This is where
Yeah.
it's the nexus of the technology and the human experiment, I think.
I just don't know what else to do. If we try to put the brakes on this, we'll put ourselves at a disadvantage because if we don't develop AI and if we're not out in front, other countries will be. It's a race. This is the danger in it, but you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I'll say this, the biggest problem I think we have right now is that we have a lot of people in positions of power that are just too old and not well versed enough in these issues to really make good decisions fast enough in order to cope with the changes in the technology. I don't really have a solution at this point other than to say somehow people always seem to figure it out, but you're quite right, RV. The average reading level out there is only grade 6. Most people are still struggling to figure out how to adapt to just social media and determine if whether they're seeing determine if what they're seeing is even real at this point or whether it's fabricated, whether it's a lie, whether it's truth. It's hard to tell. And we have artificial intelligence coming online and affecting things in ways that people aren't even aware of or can't even foresee. So where are we going to be when people with a grade 6 reading level or a grade 2 reading level, because there are a lot of people out there even with that, and they're confronted with this technology, how are you going to cope? I'm not sure.
And don't forget too the digital currency CBDC. That we have to reject that as well.
Well, of course we do, because we don't have something physical. If something goes down on the grid and you need food, you can't get food. You need water. What if it goes down for a week and you have to buy your water, you have to buy your food? You don't have any, especially with society the way it's going. You might actually have to buy all of your water, might not be able to drink what's coming out of your well or the town city anymore. You might actually have to buy it in bottles. I mean, what I'm saying is if you don't have access to your money, how are you supposed to survive? And if the digital grid goes down, and it could, very easily, could go down for a week or two, how are you supposed to survive? People are not going to have the money to have 2 or 3 weeks or a month, and most people wouldn't even do it anyway because they're depending on the system. So once that goes down, and if you depend on completely digital currency without any physical currency, we're in big trouble if something goes down. And eventually, it has to. It will.
That's what the mattress is for. Put some cash under there.
No, but if they do away with physical currency, your mattress is no good. What you have
I
under your mattress is no good.
Yeah, well, you need to be able to conduct transactions in some fashion. And our currency right now is actually largely digital anyway, even though we do have physical currency still out there, and I like to deal in cash as much as possible, but the dollar is already digitized. People just don't realize it.
No, it is. I agree.
Yeah.
But not.
Yeah.
But they're still physical too. They're still physical to you hold in your hand as well.
Yeah, and I think that's important. We should, I think, maintain physical currency and circulation as well. And you know, Trump passed an executive order banning CBDC in the United States, but here's the thing: well, he did that. He's embracing Bitcoin.
So I'm curious.
Yeah,
How many dollars does everybody have in their wallet right now?
I have nothing in my wallet. I have no cash. Well, I might have maybe $20 lying around in like toonies and loonies because I hardly ever spend them. I just kind of save them. Actually, I probably have more than that. I probably have $100.
Yeah.
Toonies, loonies, and quarters. Because I never spend change. Any change I get, it just goes into a pot. I never spend it.
Yeah, I might have $30 cash.
Well, you all guys better than I do because I got probably like $15 still left.
I have $150 in my wallet.
Well, enough for the grocery, bro.
And the reason I have $150 in my wallet is because I try to deal in cash as much as I can. I do that because it's not so much that I'm there are fewer fees when you're dealing in cash.
Yep.
If you're using cards, there are always fees. And every time you're using that card, everybody that uses the card and the money's moving around, the banks are charging a fee at every step. And so it actually eats into the value of that money along the line, and everybody's paying down the line, and the banks get richer and richer. But if you're exchanging an actual physical paper dollar, well, we don't have paper dollars in Canada anymore, but say it's a 5 or a 10 or a loonie, the bank doesn't take anything out of that, and it's anonymous. So there's, the government can't tax that either. That's just a one-on-one transaction. That's why I like cash. So I try to do that as much as I can.
Yeah, I normally
Oh yeah, the bank charges me. CIBC charges $5 a month just to have a bank account.
Yes, yeah.
Now that's not right.
Yeah, unless you have a certain amount in the account. If you carry a certain balance, they waive a lot of those kinds of fees, right? But,
Well, I have to have a checking account.
yeah. But you have to have a certain amount in there. Not everybody can carry a balance because a lot of us don't have any money.
Yes, I'm in the overdraft a lot.
Welcome to the club. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to have some.
Yeah, welcome in the poor.
Yeah, I'll take currency in any form so that I don't starve. That would be nice. Yeah. Does anybody here have
Yes,
Bitcoin?
I hear if Trudeau did lie to Trump's face, the tariff is going to be 50%.
Well, yeah. He's kind of like that, isn't he? Yeah. Don't get him upset, or he'll tariff
You know they say, guys, better be poor of the wallet, but be rich of the heart.
Well, there you go. Does
Do you
guys have?
I do need to lose weight.
Do any of you have crypto? Did anybody have Bitcoin, Ethereum, anything?
No.
No, I don't have it.
No.
Here.
Nobody? Nothing?
No. Is that enough happy?
I don't even know how that works.
I'm not going to buy any.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, what was that, RV?
No Bitcoin.
I said it's bad enough that I have to use my bank card for digital currency when I forget to take cash out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy any digital currency, that's for sure.
Yeah. I have a little bit. I wanted to learn about it, so long time ago I bought some. So I have a little bit kicking around out there. And it's a fascinating thing. I think it's a very dangerous thing, honestly. I think it's the biggest economic bubble in history.
Do you remember your password?
Oh yeah, I've got a hard wallet so that it can't be stolen, because I kind of experienced that years ago with an online scam that a friend of mine got me involved with, but a lot of people lost a bunch of money. I didn't lose really anything, but a lot of
Anything
people did.
digital can be hacked. Anything digital can be hacked. Anything.
Except that this is not online. So a hard wallet, the way that it works is you download all the code, it goes onto this device, and it's not connected to the internet. It's just sitting in a drawer upstairs in my dresser. So you can't touch it. It's not touchable. There's no code recorded anywhere. It's just on the device. And then when I plug it in, sorry, what's that?
There's no internet access to that device?
I'm sorry, what's that?
There's no internet access to that device?
Not until I reconnect it and then connect to an exchange at that point to make a transaction. But otherwise, it's completely disconnected. Nobody can access it, period. It's on a hard wallet. It's like it's the equivalent of taking a physical bill of money, like a $10 bill, and sticking it in your wallet and putting it in a dresser drawer. Nobody knows it's there. It's hidden. And if you lose those codes, they're gone forever. Like they would just go off into the ether, wouldn't exist anymore because no one would have the code. I'm the only one with the code. So you can't touch it. Now, if you leave your money on an exchange like Coinbase, then that's in their system, and that's on a server that is connected to the internet with passwords and encryption. And if anybody ever hacked in somehow, maybe using AI to get past their security, then you could lose it. Or if the exchange were to go out of business, and that has happened, and you don't get your money out before they go bankrupt or they become insolvent, then you could lose your crypto that way. That's why I recommend that if you put any substantial amount of money at all into Bitcoin, Ethereum, any crypto, and you buy it through an exchange, don't leave it in their system on their server as a deposit. Get yourself a hard wallet, connect it, download all of your currency or your crypto onto your hard wallet, and then disconnect it and put it away in a safe place. And you'll have all your codes that you save. And that's the safest way to do it. Nobody can touch it.
Is everything really disconnected though, Rick? I mean, even
it is.
Even the GPS on your phone.
It's absolutely disconnected. It's sort of it's the equivalent of putting it like on an SD card for a camera, but it's not in the computer, so nobody can touch it because all the pictures and the data is on that SD card, right? Like here's a mini SD card that I have this one's really small. That's got video files on it, but it's not connected to the internet right now, so nobody can touch that. Not touchable. And there's no with crypto, there's no copy of it.
It's actually equivalent to that, but it's on a device. It's on a cell phone.
No, it's on a device, but this is the device. It's the equivalent of a memory card chip, but it's not connected to anything. There's no power connected to it, no cable, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. It's just bits and bytes on a memory card, and then it's just stored away. Nobody can touch it. The only way it could be touched is when I reconnect at some point to conduct a transaction.
EMT, though?
Sorry?
What about an EMT? Would an EMT fry that chip?
Possibly. I guess. Yeah. It's because it is basically a drive, right? But it's your personal drive. So if you really wanted to be safe, you could put it in in a lined, shielded container, or like a lead-lined safe or something that would be immune to an electromagnetic pulse. That would preserve it for sure. So that would be an extra measure of protection, which would be wise in the event of an EMP attack.
That's a lot safer than what I would, if I was ever going to buy that, I would definitely do something like what you did, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that it couldn't get lost or stolen.
Yes. Yeah, and make sure you don't lose your key. Like it's a very long security key that's attached to the device itself. So write it all down. I've got all that in there with that device, and it's tucked away, hidden, secure. Nobody can touch it, and all the codes are right there. So I don't have to memorize it. I don't put it on the internet anyplace. It's written down on paper, and then it's stored with the device. When I need it, I go get it. I take that paper out. All my codes are right there, and I can then sign in, conduct my transaction, and then disconnect it all afterward. That's the safe way to do it. Anyway, and I'm not an expert on crypto, but in order to even speak about it here on the program, that's one of the reasons I did it, because I wanted to learn, how does this really work? What's it about? What are the problems and the advantages, so I can be properly versed? I can't speak about something if I don't know about it, so I've dabbled in it a little bit, so I understand the systems and how they work. I used to go to a meeting. It was like a club. This goes back probably 10 years ago now, in London. And some really smart guys, like really, really brilliant business people locally there. And they met once a month. And I used to go to this crypto club thing. I went there for a few months to learn from them. And just brilliant minds, really, these guys. So I learned a lot from them.
So where do you go to spend it?
You take your wallet, you reconnect to the exchange, like Coinbase is the one that I use. There are other ones, some of them Canadian. In you just go online, connect your device, and then you can exchange your Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, whatever it is you have, and convert it back into dollars, and then you can deposit it into a bank account.
Okay.
To withdraw it. So you're essentially selling it onto the market at whatever the given rate is at that time, and the exchange provides the service of converting your Bitcoin into U.S. or Canadian dollars or Russian rubles or whatever currency you want.
So there must be a charge for that. They must give you a penalty charge for it as well.
Yeah, there can be fees. There are fees associated with it, and each exchange has its own fee structure schedule. In fact, with Coinbase, they have a program where you can pay like even a flat fee, and then you can conduct as many transactions in Bitcoin over the course of a month that you want. Just a flat fee, or you can pay per transaction a percentage. It depends on, what your trading habits are like. And I'm not one to sit there and play the market every day. I've just bought some and I just hold on to it. Other people are, they try to play the market and buy the dip and then ride it back up and then sell when it's high and then let it drop again and try to buy the dip again. They try to do that. But here's the thing that I learned from the really, really smart guys in that crypto club that I was a part of. They admitted that even as they were playing the market up and down, at the end of the day, they would have been just as far ahead if they had just purchased the crypto and just left it in there and just waited. They weren't any further ahead by the time they paid the fees and made all the trades over time. They figured they could have just left it alone and just let it elevate it in value.
So even the expert does mistake.
So it's just they invested all the time trying to figure it out. But they would sit there and wax poetic in these meetings, just talking about all the intricacies of how you trade and what do you think of Ethereum? Well, I like ETH, and I think it's got potential and it's going to escalate 15% next month. Or they just talk and talk and talk. But at the end of the day, just buy and hold, and you'll probably be further ahead. Don't panic when it drops in price. It comes back up. At least that's the way it has been. Although I am afraid, because at the end of the day, I'm still skeptical, because there's really nothing backing Bitcoin up. Nothing. Like, it's just nothing.
And I think there is right now, Red.
Yeah.
If you actually sold the money you have in Bitcoin right now,
yeah.
If you actually sold it in dollars, how much money that you actually spend for it and how much money you actually get out of it if you transferred it back into dollars right now?
It has increased probably 4 times what I paid. It's increased that much. Not that I'm rich, because I didn't put that much in, right? But I invested like hundreds, and I'm oops, crap. Did I just close off the show? I think I did, didn't I? I did indeed. Hang on a second here. I will reopen it. Just give us a moment. I hate when I click on the wrong thing. Here we go. Going back in, getting everybody back on. Here we go. Sorry, everybody's back. There was somebody trying to join.
I mean,
the call.
Rick has so many buttons to push around.
Sorry. We're back, though. Can you guys hear me again?
Right now, he's muted.
Am I muted? Here we go. Now I'm
Oh,
back.
there you go.
Sorry
he's
about
back.
that, guys. The call came in, and then I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing and closed everything.
Oh, sorry, I fucked you guys all up.
That's okay. Who's on the line with us? Do we have somebody new on? Maybe I didn't admit them.
It's John. Yeah.
John. Okay. So go ahead. What are you thinking tonight? You might want to turn your audio down so we don't get echo and delay.
Turn my audio down. Okay. No, yeah, I've been listening. I have been on, but
yeah. Well, go ahead.
Yes, I really want to know.
Yeah, turn the audio down because it's confusing you. You have delay. There's a delay.
We have
Trudeau.
Dear Paul, yeah. I'm really.
You got to turn your audio down on your computer. Just mute your computer. The sound. So the speaker's off. You got it? Or is somebody else's speaker up? Go ahead, John. Can you speak now?
Mine's good.
There you go. Okay, that's better.
That was me, Rick.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. Okay, well, whoever needs to speak, go ahead. Anybody? Any takers?
They tried to speak, but I think you're muted.
Am I muted? Am I muted?
No, the person that tried to speak.
No, you're good.
There she is. Check.
Okay, yeah, maybe
We're all
John.
working fine.
Maybe John muted himself. I don't know. Well, we should just carry on with the conversation. So anyway, that's been my experience with Bitcoin and crypto. So far so good, but as I say, I'm skeptical because there's nothing backing it up. It has ballooned in value to, I think it was 96,000 this morning, US dollars. It was up to 107,000 at certain points over the past month. It keeps going up and down between 96, 95,000 and about 107,000 US. That's where it's bouncing back and forth between right now. But, with fiat currency, that's backed up at least by the productive capacity of the country, the issuing country, which is to say the labor and productivity of a country's economy, right? That's what backs up that currency. But with crypto, there's the only thing that props it up is trust and people using it. But if people lose trust in it, it will crash. People will begin to sell it off. And I can see that potentially happening if if you get a massive run on it, and trust is confidence in Bitcoin, it evaporates, say, overnight, and you start to have a big run on it, then the whole thing could collapse. And there's so much value out there in it now. So many people have invested in it. And I think you have even a lot of people who have borrowed money in order to buy crypto. And if it collapses, then that will be a huge hit to the economy. That will suck out billions and trillions of, I don't even know how much.
Because I think it will collapse eventually. I think it will.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'd be worried about.
That's what could trigger the next Great Depression, even more than the collapse of, say, the US dollar. And this is why I'm really not enthusiastic about these plans to tie the US dollar to crypto or to use US dollars to buy huge amounts of Bitcoin, as though that is a replacement for the gold standard. It makes no sense to me. It seems extremely risky. I strongly advise against it.
Yeah, gold's physical. Gold's physical, it's not digital. You're always better to invest in gold. Even though it might lose value, you're not going to lose everything.
Yeah, and I'm not really an advocate either for a return to the gold standard anymore, because it restricts the ability of any government to expand the economy. And because we have such a, especially in the case of the United States, it is the world reserve currency. And if you have to have a certain amount of gold, even in reserve, like say 15 or 20% of all the currency produced, do you know how much gold that is? And it's not really the gold ultimately anyway that backs up an economy. It's again the labor and the productive capacity of a country. If you can produce value, that's what gives your currency value. If you can't produce value, it'll collapse.
We're too far gone to go back to the gold currency because we've already printed too much money. Yeah. So we're already too far gone for that.
Yeah.
But look at the BRIC. The BRIC has based it on the gold value, and that's what's going to be our problem, because that is going to make our dollar worth even less now, because we couldn't even think about going back to the gold standard because we would be broke. We wouldn't be able to produce enough gold for all the money we printed.
But see, if they're
backed it up by gold.
But if they're truly, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But if they're truly dedicated to a gold standard, then that will restrict how large their economy can grow, because they'll have to have, it can only grow as much as the gold that they have on hand. And somebody's audio is up again, their computer.
Yeah, but at least what they have will be theirs, and they'll know it's a solid money, and the economy will still flourish. People will still be able to
except that, and again, somebody's audio is still up, and it's causing terrible feedback. I think it might be you, RV. No, who's on the bottom left?
Oh, me.
Yeah, well, anyway. The issue is that it's a misconception that gold will provide ultimate stability for the economy. And I'm sorry, I don't know what to do about that. Maybe I can mute it over here. I'm going to mute the mic for a moment. There, okay. It's a misconception that having a gold standard or a gold reserve will guarantee the stability of an economy, because what the gold really is it represents a fraction of the currency that's out in the marketplace. And the only reason that you hold that gold in reserve, it isn't one-to-one. It's not. At no time in history has any economy or country held the equivalent of, say, $1 worth of gold for every dollar issued. It's a fractional reserve system. So you would hold, say, 10% or 20% of the gold in reserve in a vault someplace, so that in the event that you have a run on on the economy, on the bank, if you want to put it that way, and people begin to demand that they withdraw their currency and convert it into gold, you can back it up, and you would have sufficient gold on hand to meet the demand for the withdrawals. But you're betting that all of your depositors won't come looking for all of the money at the same time. Only a fraction of those people would come looking for the money. And then you would also have provisions in place in order to provide stability within your banking system, agreements in place that would give you time as well to affect liquidity so that you can come up with the money to provide the depositor with their cash upon demand. But maybe generally there's some sort of agreement in place where you might not be required to produce that money on demand at that moment. You might have 2 days, 48 hours, whatever, in order to then effect a proper settlement. And that's what the Bank of International Settlements is there for too. So that if you have a liquidity crisis or a liquidity problem within your central banking system, you can go to the Bank of International Settlements, and they will then loan you enough money on the short term in order to meet your liquidity challenges as a country, as a central bank for a country. I don't know if people are following what I'm saying, but that's really kind of how it works. It isn't just that you have so much gold that it guarantees your economy is going to remain ultimately stable no matter what.
Well, that's like in 1929. We must have been on the gold standard, and it didn't save us.
Well, see, in 29, one of the big problems there was that people were, again, borrowing a lot of money. There weren't really regulations in place at that time, the way that we have today, where when the market started to crash, it just continued to decline in value. People panicked and just sold and sold and sold when that happened, and the market was just destroyed, very, very quickly. So that's kind of what happened in 29. And because people were over leveraged and had been buying because the market just kept going up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and they believed that there was nothing that would stop it, that it was just going to go on kind of forever, and people bought and got caught up in the mania, and a lot of people bought when the stock values were high, and they were leveraged. They used a lot of borrowed money, and it was just a big party back in the roaring 20s. And then it all came crashing down on one day, essentially, and plunged us into the Great Depression. Actually, there were a series of crashes that followed after that as well, but that's really what happened.
Yeah, the crash of 1929 was a turning point, I think, into not only the finance and the economy of the world, but it was a kind of a slap in the face from perspective that, the people were thinking that the dollar was so mighty, and at some point it just went down like a big rock that you would throw out of a airplane.
Well, so, if you're buying stocks or buying stock in a company that is overvalued, it means that you're investing in a company at a level that doesn't warrant it because they're not producing enough to pay you the dividends, right? And so ultimately, things crash, right? So we need to be careful about that. That's why a lot of regulations were put in place after the Great Depression on the stock market to protect investors. That's why today, if the market begins to crash, they'll halt trading. They'll just stop it so that the momentum is broken and people, the emotion is kind of taken out of the market so that things can stabilize a little bit, and then they'll resume trading again. And then if it starts to crash, they'll halt trading again. So there are regulations in place to kind of prevent that. But with crypto, that stuff, those provisions largely are not there. So if it crashes, it's crashing.
Massively.
That's the scary part of it all for me. And there's so much money now invested in it that if it does crash and say all that value is wiped out very quickly, or the majority of it, it sucks all that value out of the market, right? And people would just lose it. Then if they're over leveraged, They couldn't pay those debts. And if they can't pay the debts, it sets off a domino effect, and that's where days, weeks later, the economy begins to suffer. It would that virus, that flu, would spread to the stock market, to the mortgage market, to the auto industry, to consumer products of all kinds. It would just affect everything. People would begin to default on loans. There wouldn't be enough currency in the market anymore, not enough liquidity for people to pay their bills. You wouldn't be able to get your hands on money. And it would be devastating, in my view. We need to be very careful about this. Crypto is the Achilles heel of the economy.
Yeah, this is why I don't trust crypto personally, and I've never really been into it. Did try to learn about it, but I mean, what you told us tonight kind of gave me a better understanding of the thing, but I'm still not going in that direction at all.
Yeah. Well, other people have other views. I have mixed feelings about it. I would just say, if anybody does, my only advice, and I'm not really giving financial advice here, you should go to a professional if you want that. But I would say, don't invest anything in anything unless you can afford to lose it, especially crypto. If you want to dabble in it or whatever, fine, but I wouldn't invest my life savings and bank on it.
Remember when Trump was campaigning, he said he was going to buy half the stock in crypto and put it in U.S. bank. He's not talking about it anymore.
Yeah, suddenly he shut up about it. That was an RFK Jr. plan, and then he kind of adopted that as well. And it was very popular. And you know why? I'll tell you why. It's because when he adopts that position, he had a lot of people who are invested in crypto already. And they will all vote for him because he's going to make them rich. And the reason he'll make them rich is if the government gets involved in crypto, as it is getting involved, and begins to buy up crypto, it creates massive demand for the cryptocurrency. And because it's set up in a system where there's a very limited supply of it, there is a finite supply of crypto, they start buying it, the value goes up, goes through the roof, because the government is going to buy massive amounts of it. So the price goes up. Anybody holding already, going to make more money. Get it? That's why they all voted for him. That's why it was popular with the pro-crypto crowd.
Okay.
So anyway.
So it was just a money bargain kind of thing.
Well, for people who already held crypto or were involved in it, yeah, they were, yay, go Trump, go RFK Jr. We support you. We think that the U.S. dollar should be backed up by crypto. So use those U.S. dollars, buy up that crypto, because it benefits anybody already holding it. It increases the value of it. So the more demand, the higher demand, limited supply means higher price. Supply and demand ratio, where the supply and demand axis meets. So increase the demand, you still have the same amount of supply, you get a higher price. It's just, that's why economics is not just a science, it's a natural law. You can defy gravity for a while, but eventually what goes up must come down, sort of thing. You can't deny Mother Nature. And supply and demand is an economic law. It's the law of supply and demand. You can't get away from it. It's a natural thing. So beware politicians who promise you free things, because when they're doing that, they're making false promises. It means that they're borrowing or stealing something from someone else in order to give it to you. It's one or the other. But either way, we all end up paying for it in the end. So, with that being said, let's go. Yeah, go ahead, Alicia.
What happened to Kyle Kemp? He was driving RFK around all over the place, and then when he jumped to Trump, he disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know. In fact, I was thinking about Kyle Kemper today. I was thinking of sending him a message to see if he might consider joining us on the program again. He's been on here twice before, and it would be, I think a great show if we could have him back.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, that being said, the clock is ticking here tonight. Let's go around the horn for some final thoughts from everyone. Dragon, you can go first, sir.
Okay, well, if you want me to go first, I'll go out with a good joke. So, what's the difference between a hippo and a Zippo?
I'm not sure you're talking about a lighter? A Zippo? Go ahead.
Well,
give us the punchline.
Yeah. Well, one is heavy, the other one is a little bit lighter.
Okay, I get it now. Yeah, but you and my dad.
I'll catch you up on the next one, guys.
All right. Is that you still with us, Phil?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, go ahead, sir. Final thought tonight.
I don't know. I already said kind of what I wanted earlier, so I just, I think I'll just end it there.
Okay, and Alicia?
Very good night. I learned a lot about crypto now. And yeah, very good night. Glad I called in.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys called in too. It was a great show. And I'm liking this new phone system. It seems to be working out pretty well. And I think we had a great conversation, great comments. And thank you, Phil, for calling in. And I appreciate your perspective on everything that you presented tonight too. So
yeah, well, thanks very much, Rick. Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
All right. And because tonight's subject was, our topics were pretty much focused on Donald Trump, I'll leave everybody with what else? MAGA Mars. Here we go, folks. See you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. on the flip side.
He's got a plan, it's bold and grand, taking over land, sea and sand. Canada's ours, Greenland's in the mix, the Panama Canal's just another fix. But Mars, oh Mars, you pesky red sphere, your spying drones are making it clear. It's a threat to Earth, a cosmic sin, but don't worry folks, he'll make Mars great again. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. We'll impose sanctions, taxes, and fines. Martian exports know they're crossing the line. The Martians cry foul, but Trump doesn't care. He'll build a space wall floating up there. Elon's on board with rockets ablaze. The stock market's loving this Martian craze. He says, trust me folks, I know the deal. Martian gold is ours, this plan is real. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. Yeah, Mars hotels with golf resorts, intergalactic trade reports, a MAGA dome where Martians bow. We've got the best Martians, Trump says now. Fake news claims the plan's absurd, but Trump tweets back, it's the final word. Martian drones not on my watch. Space Force ready to kick it up a notch. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say can you see, he'll make Mars great again. Space Force too. We're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say, can you see? He'll make Mars great again.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.